Hello, everyone. I am Bhakti Kothari, and I'm thrilled to introduce to you Dr. Sadhna Shankar, a true powerhouse of talent and intellect. Dr. Shankar retired as the Principal Director General of Income Tax Human Resources in New Delhi and is an IRS officer of the 1987 batch. She has impacted various central ministries, including health, home affairs, and civil aviation, and has also served as an advisor at the Competition Commission of India. Dr. Shankar is a literary virtuoso whose books, such as Alhan Wasalhan, A Syrian Journey, and the sci fi marvel Ascendance, showcase her ability to transport readers to new realms. With a BCom Honors PhD in economics and an LLB, she seamlessly blends academic rigor with creative brilliance. Her voice resonates across platforms like the Times of India, Huffington Post, and her blog, The Mind Prism, is a treasure trove of insights. She's also captivated audiences at literary festivals like the Jaipur Literary Festival and even appeared in TV dramas like Ashad Ek Din. Today, we're diving into Dr. Shankar's incredible journey, exploring her literary insights and discovering the inspiration behind her impactful work. Stay tuned for an engaging conversation you won't want to miss. So, welcome to our channel, ma'am. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bhakti. I've been also looking forward to our long conversations to finally get to this point.
Yes,
Pleasure to finally meet you, even if it's online.
it's a pleasure to finally meet you too, ma'am. The honor is all ours, honestly, trust me. But
Thank you so much. Yeah.
yeah. So, ma'am, you were an IRS officer. Still, you are a kind of sort of in the service, but you're also an author currently. You've written many books, a lot of books. So, what do you think? Like, what inspired you to become an author while simultaneously working as an IRS officer?
Okay, now let me just put the record straight. I have retired from the IRS
Yeah.
last year, but I was appointed as member of the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission for 4 years by the government. So that's where I'm currently on a full-time job.
Hmm.
Okay. And now coming to your question about writing and what inspired. Actually, I from when I was in school, I used to be associated, in our time. There's a huge time gap between you and me. But when I was in school and in college,
Yeah.
there used to be only be Doordarshan. There was a
Yeah.
time when there was only Doordarshan in the media.
Yeah.
So I used to be associated with Doordarshan in the sense as a hobby. While I was studying, I used to host programs. I acted in quite a few serials and plays of Doordarshan.
Hmm.
And then I got into the service in 1987, and 1987 batch. And while, uh, media work is great fun and really, I really enjoyed it. But with a full-time job, it was not something you could, really do because timings, etc. In government, you have to maintain that, and you don't have that kind of freedom when you get up and go to the studio.
Hmm.
So, like, it went kind of on a back burner. But I think with most people who have dabbled even somewhat in anything creative, that creative kira, as I call it, it kind of just keeps
Yeah.
going knock, knock, knock. So actually, that's when I kind of transitioned to my creative urge into writing, because writing was something that you could do at your own, you can do at your own time, your own pace. It's really your personal effort and this thing. And over time, I must admit, Bhakti, that it has really become a passion for me. So, like right now, I'm not a full time writer. I'm not because I work, but yes, it's like whatever I'm writing, thinking of writing, or any story or anything, it's like a parallel world that goes on in my head. In my head all the time.
Right.
And so that's how I moved into the arena of writing in my career. And also, uh, as far as I don't know about inspiration, but long back when we were in training in NNDT, one senior had come, and
Hmm.
I don't remember who he was, but I still remember what he said. He had said that you're at the verge of joining a long career in the civil service. Pick up one hobby,
Yeah.
and it'll keep you grounded. So
Yeah.
I think that must have settled somewhere my head because I just remember it to this day.
Yeah.
And so, yes, writing has been a kind of parallel thing with my job and my career in the last, I think, about 20 years now.
That's amazing, ma'am. And coming to your life as a civil servant, so when you were in the Indian Revenue Service, what is the most surprising thing that you discovered about yourself while working in the field?
If I tell you, you'll actually laugh, but on a lighter vein,
Yeah.
actually, I discovered after I joined, though I'm a BCom honor student, that numbers frightened me. You know,
Oh,
in the,
really?
really, in the IRS. Actually, I discovered that I'm not a numbers person. No,
Okay.
I'm much more a words kind of person, and
Yeah.
that was a realization for me in the start in my training only when we started actually going through the act and this and that. That was one thing I really realized. Though I had been in a commerce graduate, and I
Hmm.
never realized it till I was studying.
Hmm.
And over time, if you ask me as an IRS officer, I would say today that whatever I have, whether I'm an author, whether I'm a member of the NCDRC, everything I have,
Hmm.
I owe it to my service and my career in the civil service. And also, I think I realized somewhere, well, very much along the way that uh, the job is not what defines me completely.
Hmm.
Like I found among my colleagues and everything, I am so and so is the basic definition of life. But I think pretty early in my career, I realized that I as a person and as an individual, have many more facets to my life, and
Hmm.
which I would like to explore. I
Hmm.
am an officer. I do my job well and with full devotion, but there's much more to me than just being an officer. So I think these two are my prime realizations, which have stayed with me in my life. No,
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Agree.
makes sense to you, but that's how it is.
It does. It does. In fact, you just mentioned that one needs to have a hobby. I absolutely agree with it because, being in such a tedious job as an IRS or even an IS or an IPS, people need to get their mind off their daily routines. And
I
what
think
better
it
thing than a
keeps you
hobby to pursue?
grounded, Bhakti. It keeps
Yeah.
you grounded. And when you're
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen when I've been very stressed or there's something which is eating me up, then I just, think, okay, now let me think about next chapter of, if I'm writing a book. And
Right.
I just take my mind and then for an hour or so, I've forgotten about what is hassling me a lot. Then when I
Hmm.
come back to it, I'm able to look at it in a much better manner. So it's a great stress buster also.
Absolutely.
Your hobby or passion is a great stress buster. And civil service career does get stressful. There is no, two things about it in that sense.
Exactly. And you being such a senior officer, you worked in so many ministries. Did you have a favorite department or a project that you worked on?
Actually, you've, kind of hit not the nail on the head, but whenever I've been asked that what has been the most exciting part of my career, what I remember the most, and for me, it was my stint in the Ministry of Health. I worked as a director in the Ministry of Health way back in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
and I handled the communications for the entire reproductive and child health program, and specifically polio.
Hmm.
So, it was in those days where pulse polio was a big campaign. Now we have eradicated polio, but we were at that stage, our country was at that stage where we were in a pushing.
Yeah.
So that stint of about 3 years where I handled the communication campaigns and specifically polio,
Hmm.
that was a very, very, I would say, not fulfilling, but it also uh, made me, made me understand that how actually communication from uh, the authority or government. Polio was a multi-sectoral program, so I'll not say that it was, but the
Hmm.
communication strategy was supervised by the ministry. We
Hmm.
had a lot of partners, but it was supervised by the ministry. How actually it can good, positive, well thought of communication and strategically done. Not just that you decide, okay, we have to tell this and you just start do a lot of research. It was such an experience and such a learning that well-planned communication can actually change behavior in society, you know.
Hmm.
So, and then it was very interesting working with all these different stakeholders. And then, you know, you're working in an area of child health where it makes a difference to people's lives.
Hmm.
So that I remember as the most joyful, experience. The rest have been great, very great learning. But when you look back at a career of 35 years, then you think, well, what was the time you really enjoyed yourself the most? I think those 3.5 years for me were the most, it was a great learning curve.
Absolutely. One of the
Handling
most.
the pulse polio
Yeah.
communication campaign.
So, have you not ever thought of maybe writing a book on all these things, on your achievements in the service also?
Actually, I don't. I'm not a memoir kind of person. You know,
Sure.
I mean, I think I'm not meaning to put down anybody who writes memoirs,
Yeah.
but I am not a person who looks back so much and wants to write what happened. I prefer to write fiction and imagine things. So that's my kind of writing. But I do go, or I have been quite regularly to Jamia's Administrative Staff College, where I used to go and speak on development communication regularly. So where I used to share my pulse polio experience, I've spoken at 2, 3 other places. I mean,
Hmm.
other institutions also on it. So that way I try to share that experience. But no, I am not a memoir person.
So you are a fiction person basically, and you've also written
Yes.
non-fiction books, I think,
I
right?
have actually written primarily book in terms of books, travel,
Okay.
okay, about travel.
Yeah.
And then the non-fiction books are actually, all of them are compilations of my published articles. So I've been
Mm-hmm.
writing non-fiction as, articles in newspapers,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not non-fiction books in per se, that I
Okay.
started and wrote a book about non-fiction. No, it was just people like, and of course, fiction. So, travel to a large extent now I have kind of put it back behind me, and
Okay.
my focus is more on fiction and my column writing. Like currently, also I write in 2 newspapers. I write
Yeah.
once a month in Dainik Bhaskar
Hmm.
and once a month in Lokmat. Uh,
Okay.
so, Lokmat comes out in English, Marathi, and
Yeah.
Gujarati, and Dainik Bhaskar in Hindi, Gujarati, and Marathi.
Right.
So, so then after some time, I collect them together and then bring out a book. That's how the non-fiction part of the writing has come.
So are you also well versed in Hindi and Marathi? I mean, sorry,
No,
Gujarati and Marathi.
no. How it works is like I write primarily in English.
Yeah.
So I write my article in English and send it to the newspapers,
Hmm.
and they get it translated in Marathi. And the Hindi translation for the Dainik Bhaskar, they share with me. Meri Matrabhasha Hindi hai.
Hmm.
So they share with me. I check it so that
Yeah.
it's fine, and
Yeah.
then it goes for the Hindi, and then they translate into Marathi.
Okay, okay. I thought you were also well versed in Gujarati and
No,
Marathi,
no,
so I got really
no, no.
excited because I'm also Gujarati, so I was like, oh wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
how interesting. No. Sorry, not yet. Let me put it this way.
Yeah,
Not yet.
good we
So
cleared that. Yeah,
maybe.
of course, you are in the habit of writing. So, do you have a quirky writing habit, or maybe like a ritual that helps you get into that creative zone, like after a hard day's work? I believe.
Uh, you know, uh, I don't think I have developed any quirky thing, but what I tell you, what I have learned along
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, mm, most of us, when we are working, when we think of, I have so many colleagues and batchmates who or well, somebody's good at this, somebody's good at that. And
Mm.
बोलो कि when are you doing this on a regular basis? When जब time आएगा, when I'm free and I'll have lots of time, then I'll be doing it.
Okay.
But what I realized along the way was that there is never any opportune time. There's never a time in life when you are that kind of free, that you'll have the bandwidth, the ability. So many things have to come together. You have to make the best of the chaos that is around.
Mm.
So I actually developed in terms of work, what I developed the habit of writing as and when something came to me. So if I can't, I'm in the middle of work, and as I told you, it's a parallel universe. So if I suddenly something like like I tell you a simple thing, I still remember for my forthcoming book, I was one day walking for a meeting to in North Block 3, 4 years ago. Suddenly I saw it's a beautiful building. I've been inside Moscow.
Yeah.
Suddenly, so I said, okay, this is beautiful. I can use this description for one of the buildings that I'm thinking about. I can use some of it. So I obviously walk into a meeting and I can't, but then when I come back, I maintain a diary when I'm writing my novels. I
Hmm.
maintain a diary with me. So I come back and I just note it down. Okay. A description of this part of this building or anything, and then when I get the time, when it's a weekend or it's one day in the evening, I'm sitting for some time, I will pick it up and try and, so if you ask me my quirk, it's the diary maintenance, because I don't have the luxury of getting down to write when I want. So
Hmm.
yes, I keep noting things which I want to add or bring into my story. And even often I'll suddenly think in the middle, okay, I can take this story forward now like this. So that also I'll note and keep. Okay, so the next section of the story has come to me. I
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, so it's making the most of whatever time and windows of opportunity are available to you. That's my quirk, if you ask me.
That's great.
In,
That's
in
really
terms of
great.
writing,
Very
uh,
old school and very sweet, actually.
sorry.
I'm saying very old school and very sweet,
Huh,
actually.
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely old school. I write on the computer. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't write by hand. But yes, if I otherwise, but either you're full time that
Hmm.
you've thought of something, you come and you start writing. But because one has so many other commitments, how do you remember so many things? So you have to kind
Hmm.
of note it down. Then it is there for you to recollect when you're actually writing your stuff.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because how many people maintain a diary anymore? Like, even if I have to like catch up on something later on and I want to make a note, I'll probably make a note on my phone.
No,
But this
no, no, no.
diary keeping habit is really
No. I'm 60 plus. I have to go to school.
I know, I know. And it's good
So,
that you're maintaining a diary. I'm really happy.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And actually, when after I finish the book, I go through my diary, because what I found very interestingly in writing a novel is that you start with something. Before I start a book, also, I sit and actually write this character, what's the main theme I'm
Hmm.
going to write about, and little bit of what is the world I'm going to create, because I write science fiction, and what will be the component and what will be the likely end. So the first, like that, I make certain notes, and
Hmm.
then when I finish, when I go back to the beginning of those notes, I realize, oh God, the ending and everything, a lot of it has changed while I wrote. So that's
Yeah.
also very interesting.
Exactly, exactly. It
Yeah.
must be really fun to go through all of it again.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And ma'am, I think your most popular book, science fiction novel is Ascendance.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
could you
as
give
of
us a
now.
little insight into the book? What is it? How did you venture into this genre? And what exactly inspired you to write Ascendance?
Uh, you know, I I find that as an author, if you start writing a novel, your first novel, I don't know, many authors will agree, tends to be somewhat autobiographical,
Yeah.
you know, because you're most familiar with that milieu, those people, etc. At least a large part of the story will be set in places you've been. So that was the case with me also. So my first book was called Never a Disconnect, and it's about three girls from Sriram College of Commerce and how they navigate life. And it's about Delhi of the
Hmm.
from 80s to 2000 kind of thing. So, but as a as a young person, I always loved to read science fiction, and I used to love to read whodunits. Okay. So these were my two, like girls normally like to read a lot of romance and
Yeah.
Nancy Drew and this and that, but I used to read a lot of this. And somewhere in my head, uh, there was this when you're a woman, you're a young girl. When you're a woman in our society, culture, and you're growing up and you're getting out to work and you have family, workplace issues to handle, you cannot be blind to the gender issues that keep cropping up around you, where you lose out because you're a woman, where you gain because you're a woman. I mean, I'm sure what I'm saying resonates with you. You know, the
Definitely.
gender lens comes in automatically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I used to always think that uh, that I have to write something, a book, a novel, or a story, trying to deal with this.
Hmm.
Okay. And I just thought I thought a lot of, I mean, I just keep thinking about all these things that, and then around the time, I don't remember the year now, but at some time, I don't know if you remember, there was this news about Dolly the sheep being cloned. She was the first sheep. If you
Yeah.
type on the net Dolly, the
Yes.
sheep, I think she's died also. But that time, cloning became a very big buzzword.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself that supposing just if human beings can actually clone themselves, so you can clone and have a baby, and a man can clone and have a baby, and then for centuries that becomes the mode of reproduction. Then how will that means the reproductive link between men and women, their dependence on each other to have children, will go away. Okay, then how will that change the social construct?
Hmm.
How will that impact gender relations?
Yeah.
And that was the start of the story of Ascendance.
Hmm.
Okay, so Ascendance. So I wanted to write about a time where actually men and women don't need each other for reproduction, haven't done so for thousands of years, and then I've imagined their relationship, and in my imagination, that relationship becomes one of pure competition because you're two separate species. Okay,
Yeah.
so Ascendance is that story. Now, a story like this had to be set in a science fiction format because you cannot write a contemporary story with
Of
this.
course.
So I never set out to write a science fiction. I set out to write a story which, by necessity, had to be set in the future and on a different planet, and so that's how Ascendance became science fiction. So actually, it is in my imagination, it is a possible future of humanity. And I did a lot of research before writing it about cloning and about ethics and where we are in reproductive technology, etc. And lots of the things I've written, I wrote this from 2008. It took me 2010. It took me 5 years to write it, and it got published finally in 2018. So lots of things that I've written are, actually more or less coming true in a lot of ways. You hear a lot
Hmm.
about babies being born in incubators now, and things like that. So Ascendance is really my idea of a possible future where men and women become the competing species, and it's a story of them thousands of years in the future on another planet, because Earth has, climate change has kind of destroyed Earth.
Hmm.
And who ultimately, and they live separated, divided by a fence, and who ultimately in the final battle ascends, whether it's the men or the women. So you've got to
Yeah.
read it to figure out
Right.
what
It sounds
happens.
really interesting, and I have a lot of interest in science fiction.
Oh,
I
really?
haven't read as much books in science fiction, but I've watched a lot of movies. But
Movies.
this sounds really interesting.
So you should pick it up if you find it interesting.
I will
Yeah.
definitely. For
That's
sure.
how I landed up in writing
Yeah.
science fiction.
That's
Yes.
amazing. It's such a beautiful story. And
Mm.
one thing more that was coming to my mind was if
Hmm.
ever you would you would have a chance to convert or like turn one of your books into a movie, which book are you going to pick, and like who would be the lead characters that you would choose to
And it's
take part in the
amazing.
movie?
It's not that if I think about it all the time. But yeah, it's very difficult to get. Anyway, that's a different aspect. But yes, I am very keen actually for Ascendance to be transformed into an audio visual. But I have written this book, Bhakti, not, it's not a book which is based out of India or anything. I have very consciously when I wrote it, tried to make it such that when you read about the descriptions of Elon, which is the other planet, you can't say, oh, this person comes from this part of the world, this person. I have used imaginary names. I have used um, cultural indicators, like I have used Amrit and Vish from India. I have used Inab from Europe. I have used from Japan. So it's not a India-based book. So if you ask me honestly, it would really, ideally, it should be an international production, with not a so-called India or Bollywood production, but
Yeah.
and I never reached the point. I'm still trying to think how to kind of work towards that. But if you
Yeah.
ask me to think that if it were made even internationally and some Indian people were to act in it, then the first person who comes to my mind is, for one of the characters who's on the male side, who's ambitious, who fights to get to become the leader amongst men, and who leads the conflict against the women. I would actually think of, Ranveer Singh.
Oh, okay. Good
Okay,
choice. Yeah.
he has that mix of, he's
Quirkiness in him.
gray.
Yeah.
Gray, he can be, he's not totally black, and
Yeah.
so he can do the gray kind of thing and something
He would give
namkeen,
his heart and soul into the role.
so something like
Yeah.
that. And uh, and then there's another. There are ensemble characters on both sides. Okay, this kind of story doesn't have a hero and a heroine. It
Yeah.
has two, three on both sides.
Yeah.
And then there's this other guy who's the astronomer, who's the balance, who keeps trying to figure out if there's some way not to have the conflict. So, then in that, I would probably think that, Vicky Kaushal would be a good, softer person to play that kind of role. I'm looking at the current lot,
Yeah.
I'm not looking at somebody who's this thing.
Yeah.
And on the women's side, very tough. That's very tough. Because I actually don't watch so much of Bollywood. You asked me such a
No, you
this
can
thing
also
question.
include like international artists, not necessarily Indian
No,
artists.
yeah, no, I've not been. No, it makes more sense to just think of the uh, girl ladies or actresses one nowadays. Okay, then one of the characters who's the more empathetic one among the women's side, actually decides to go in for a clone baby, who actually tries to explore a maternity, because there is also in the book a thread on immortality, that if actually humans, all cultures really venerate immortality, Maria being the Ashirwad in Ayushman Bhav and Jug Jug Jio types.
Hmm.
So the book also explores, the second theme the book explores is that actually if we become kind of immortal and human beings can live forever, then what is it that they really gain and what is it that they
Yeah.
really lose?
Yeah.
So for that girl who actually decides to go in for a creation, maybe who's a more sensitive and empathetic, a young girl, you tell me amongst today. Like for the other one who is more hard nosed and who's more, wants to uh, have the battle with the men, I would probably think of Tapsi Pannu. But for the other one, the Teoni, as I call her, not able to. I mean, I would think, then let me go slightly older, I would think of somebody like Konkana Singh Sharma for that role,
Oh,
a
wow.
more grounded person and more
Yeah.
empathetic. These are just
These are
thoughts,
beautiful
random
choices, honestly.
thoughts,
Yeah.
random thoughts,
Yeah, with great
because
choices.
you put this question to me, I told you, I've never gone that far. Who
Yeah.
will cast? I mean, though one is really thinking of, because science fiction, which is made in films and web series and all, it's a
Hmm.
lot of aliens coming and fights happening, and you're
Yeah.
saving the planet, and you're having, so this book it's not like that. Because
Yeah.
in my view, ultimately, science fiction is one of the most philosophical genres of writing, because you actually look at your own society in a very philosophical manner and place it far away and deal with the issues. So
Mhm.
it's actually philosophical more than this conflict ridden thing.
Hmm.
That's my thought on this.
Right, right, right. That's amazing. And apart from being a writer, you are also into blogging. So,
Yeah.
like, when did you start it, and how were you inspired to begin blogging?
Blogging, I started my blog in 2016.
Okay.
It was just, I think around that time, blogging was also becoming quite popular at that time. And also, you with the whole printing and publishing industry, as you know, is disrupted because of technology. Okay,
Hmm.
so to find to you write something, any something, and you struggle to find somebody. I'm talking about smaller pieces. I'm not talking books right now.
Hmm.
You struggle to find somebody to print it and to publish it in newspapers or magazine.
Hmm.
So it actually became and you put it out on a blog, and it has a life of its own thereafter, and you get
Yeah,
a lot of comments, and it goes all over the world, which a normal publication would not provide you. Of course, there's great pleasure in being published in a newspaper, regular print newspaper, but there's also great joy in interacting and having feedback on what you write from random people who come across your blog and read it. So I think that was one of the things which I started blogging, because it gave me a totally different audience, totally different a landscape of people who read, who interact. And then the blogosphere is extremely active, people comment, people like, people will get back to you and say, no, this is wrong, this is right, that kind of thing. So it's a very different and very vibrant place to be. Of course, you need to put an effort into, you need to blog on a regular basis, that kind of thing. So I'm not able to do that very regularly because of my other commitments. But yes, I keep my blog alive, and I do try and publish at least two blogs in a month on my
that's
blog.
great.
So
That's
yeah,
great. I
yes,
also
yes.
began blogging,
It's
I think, during my college days,
what's
but it's just stuck to two blogs in total, and that's
I say,
about
I
it.
think no,
Yeah.
I I still, and actually also what I do is what I publish in the newspapers also I put on my blog. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And then this is going in Hindi and Gujarati and Marathi. And
Yeah.
so the original English I put on the blog. No,
Yeah.
so it has a different audience, different readership. So these are interesting ways to keep yourself happy and busy. That's how I
That's great.
look
And
at
since you've also written so many articles in newspapers, do you have a favorite article?
article. Mm, I mean, no, I can't think of. I can tell you what I write about
Yeah.
more. I write about, because it is linked to what my books I write. I write a lot on technology and
Oh,
how it impacts our life,
okay.
and how and a lot on it, and some not a lot, and the rest of it on environment.
Hmm.
On environmental issues again, which affect our life.
Hmm.
So, like. For example, the one that came out in, uh, recently, when I'm talking of environment, I wrote on the decline on in the chocolate cocoa production, why
Okay.
it's happening, and how chocolate may go out of. So I make it uh, relevant to everyday life. It's not like a scholarly article, but
Yeah.
yeah, it brings in information also, and it leaves some things to think
Yeah.
about as well, and even something like chocolate is getting affected because of the patterns of holding and how climate change is affecting. So, in that kind of thing. So that's what I write. So very difficult to say, but they have written so many articles that I can't, pinpoint and say that this is one article I really like. That's a tough one. I'm unable to pinpoint at this point of time.
Right, right. I can understand that. And
Because
ma'am, you have a book called Catching Fireflies, where you capture travel experiences across the globe. So, what
yes,
is your favorite, most memorable travel story till now?
you know, uh, my most favorite thing is travel. If you ask me, other than writing, what you like is I like traveling. In
Yeah.
fact, yesterday I was just looking at Instagram and I came across this post where this couple in their mid-50s. The guy is asking them like, what do you do? So they say we just travel the world.
Yeah.
So they say that, at 50 we realized we shut our business. They were, I think, from Brazil. We shut our business. We took all our, savings, and now we just, for the last 4 5 years, traveling the world. And my God, if you ask me, that's the kind of dream I would like to live. Of course, I can't do it for
Dream
so
job.
many reasons. Dream way to live. So yes, so travel per se is my favorite. And I think also travel is what makes you a storyteller.
Yes.
So but if you ask me, like, of all the places I've been, which have impacted, or which have the place which has left a beautiful and lovely and all is all. But I think I was most moved when I visited Pietermaritzburg in South Africa.
Okay.
Pietermaritzburg is that station where Gandhiji was thrown off the train, and he
Okay.
spent the night in Pietermaritzburg in the waiting room. And that's the night where he decided that he's going to uh, do non-cooperation. His whole life's, what should I say,
Purpose.
purpose, and what he was going to do and how he was going to achieve it by
Mission.
non-cooperation, by not obeying laws. That was what crystallized in that night. Okay, he was thrown out because he was a non-white, and he was left on the station. And it's a small station, and there's the waiting room there is just, it has a wooden bench even today, and there's just one small portrait of Mahatma Gandhi, and of course outside there's a statue. You just stand there and you think, actually, that you just think of this man, he's thrown off in the middle of the night. And that one night not only transforms his life, it transforms the life of a nation and, in a sense, the whole world.
Yes.
So that visit to Pietermaritzburg was actually, मेरे अभी बोलते बोलते मेरे रोंगटे
मेरे
खड़े
को
हो
भी
गए हैं.
सेम, यही वो सोच रही थी कि मेरे को मुझे भी ऐसे गूज़बम्प्स आ रहे हैं सुन के।
It is, and it's been a long time since I went there to Pietermaritzburg. Maybe 2000, I don't know, 10, 11, maybe quite a while. But it's like one of those places that just stay with you. At least that station and that waiting room has just, even now, if I shut my eye, I can see it very clearly, that very small room. And,
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a place that really, it just makes you, आपको अंदर से हिला देता है, that certain moments in life can actually be life changing.
Yes.
That's
Visiting
that
such
is,
places gives you also a direction in life, I believe. When you start to
I mean,
think about, so many
lots
things
of,
that
yeah,
can
so many
happen.
things. So it becomes, so that would be one. I mean, I loved all the places I visited, but what has stayed with me as a, emotional, and I don't know how to express it better,
Yeah,
moment, that's Pietermaritzburg.
that's
I've
beautiful.
written
Such a
about it
beautiful story.
also. I've written about it also. It's there on my blog.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful story.
yeah.
And ma'am, of course, you have a passion for writing while you were also working for the IRS, and you had other interests and commitments also. How are you balancing all of these?
Um, you know, I have found one, I told you my mantra of work, as I told you, that whatever you want to do, you really want to do, you'll always find time for it.
Yeah.
Okay. These are all excuses. I'll do it when I have time, and I'll do it when my kid grows up, and I'll do it. So one is, you have to find time in the chaos that you do. Number two, uh, I think it's really like when you work, when I go to work, I'm also managing the work. No, I'm prioritizing that this work I will do now, this work. So there's an element of time management, and there's an element of delegation. Okay, I'll say this, I'll do this, I will give to my subordinate, and he or she will do. So there's time management and delegation and professional work. All of you are also doing as a professional.
Hmm.
Especially, I feel what happens with women is that we do it very well professionally, but when it comes to our personal spaces, we want to be the perfect officer, want to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, perfect. You you forget to apply the same principles of time management and delegation at home in
Yeah.
your personal space. So I think, especially, I'm glad you asked it so politely. Otherwise, or normally a woman they'll ask, how do you manage your home and your this and that? So I liked your question, the way you worded your question, but it comes down to basically this, that I think in personal life also women should not chase to be the perfect. Do the best you can wherever. Delegate, delegate, delegate. You can hire somebody to do your cooking, do your cleaning. Please do it. Then you don't have to be कि नहीं नहीं मुझे ही खाना बनाना है, मुझे ही ये करना है. If that's your passion, please follow it. But not because you have to be perfect in that sphere.
Yes.
So so I feel that what we do in our professional life, when we manage our work, we have to do in our personal space also. And then things balance out. And stop chasing. As I have a young daughter, and I keep telling her this also, that stop chasing perfection. I don't know, we women live with such a baggage of this wanting to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I think that is something you need to shed, and all balance comes.
Yes.
Sorry if I'm sounding,
No,
but
no,
I'm much
no.
older, so I
No,
can
no, of
afford to
course.
say this.
These are life lessons, you get like if I'm getting to learn this lesson so early in my life, that too from a personality like you, I mean, it's an honor.
Yeah, no,
Please
no,
don't be sorry.
I really believe this. That we have to just do our best wherever we are. We
Yeah.
must delegate, manage. Everything balances out. And for what you really want to do, you'll always find time.
Hmm.
That's that's my this thing. You will have to, of course, you give up things. Like I have never been part of a lunch group. I have never, that kind of 2.5 hours go into somebody's room. No, I used to have my lunch on my own and then get and try and see what next, and do whatever I have to do. Some editing, I'll sit and do my editing till it's time to get back to work. So you enjoy doing it. So it's not a pain, in
Right.
that
So
way.
many years into the service and you're still able to handle everything so perfectly. I mean,
Uh,
it's commendable.
I so
Near
no,
perfect, okay, near
no,
perfect.
no, to the best of my ability.
To the
That's
best of your
my
ability.
standard, and to the best of my ability, I must be able to do it,
Right,
That's
that's
how I
great.
am trying to live.
That's great, ma'am. And like as we come to the conclusion of our interview today, I would honestly like to know when can we expect your next book?
Actually, it should come out by the definitely before the end of the year. It's actually with the publisher,
Okay.
and it's called Continuum. Okay,
Okay.
again, it's science fiction,
Yes.
and it's a book that stretches from the time of the Mahabharata to the future. So in that, it's
Wow.
not based on another planet. It's very much based in contemporary times. And
Yeah.
I have a traveler from the future and
Yeah.
a traveler from the past who
Ooh.
meet. Okay, and so the main thread, if you ask me, in this book, like I told you, science fiction is always a philosophical, attempt.
Yes.
So basically, at least for me, so in this book, I actually thread one that for women, things change, but they still don't change. Whether it's from Mahabharata or, and maybe the
Future.
future, but maybe different. So I mean, it kind of goes there. But yes, even to contemporary times, there's a lot of change, but still the change is very minimal.
Yeah.
And then the second aspect I have explored is the whole idea of love.
Hmm.
And love in its various forms, in various relationships, how and why it defines us so much.
Hmm.
These two things I've tried to explore it. So it should come out by the end of the year, definitely. It's
I would gladly be looking forward to read it. It sounds like a really amazing concept from the past and the future. Sounds really interesting, very unique. I haven't heard, read, or seen anything like that before.
no, thanks,
So
Bhakti. Thank you so
yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to reading your book. And that brings us to the end of our conversation today. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Bhakti. I really enjoyed talking to you myself.
I enjoyed
It's
talking to
great.
you too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.